Well, that was the craze for Barbenheimer in South Asia, a phenomenon that celebrates the release of two Hollywood movies, Barbie and Oppenheimer. But the former faced ban in Pakistan for objectionable content. Nevertheless, both movies have set the cash register ringing. Hello there, you are watching Inside South Asia with me, Dasuni Athauda. Let's get started. India and Sri Lanka have agreed to build a land link and a petroleum pipeline between them. Will these projects between the two countries restrict the Chinese influence in the region? Let's find out.
Almost a year after he took the top job, the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe was in India last week on a two-day visit. The visit comes in the backdrop of Lanka's deep economic crisis that spiraled out of control in 2022 when Delhi stepped in with a $4 billion aid package to help the island nation tide over shortages of food, fuel and essential supplies. The onset of the crisis giving India a rare opportunity to reassert itself as a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region against China's overarching influence. The two sides discussed the strengthening of maritime, air, energy, trade and tourism relationships. The visit culminated in the signing of 4 agreements. One of them was to make the Sri Lankan port of Trincomalee a regional hub for industry and energy, apart from also developing the ports of Colombo and Kanke Santurai. New Delhi says an idea of a land bridge connecting the two nations, which are at one point just kilometers apart, was also proposed by Sri Lanka. In a strategic document, the neighbors said establishing land connectivity across the Park Strait.
And connectivity really take place when you are connected through land, so ordinary people could drive from this end to the other end, and it becomes a larger region where economic cooperation, social cooperation, educational cooperation, people-to-people contact become a reality.
It's going to push a lot of trade and tourism towards the northern and especially in the north-central provinces, which are not very developed economically. So that's going to be one of the bigger benefits, spreading of wealth around Sri Lanka.
It also envisaged the construction of a multi-product petroleum pipeline from the southern part of India to Sri Lanka. There was also a focus on the resumption of passenger ferry services between the two countries. On the bilateral trade front, operationalization of the UPI-based digital payments was agreed upon, and to conduct the joint exploration and production of hydrocarbons in Sri Lanka's offshore basins, as well as the development of the Trincomalee tank farms as an economic hub.
Indian currency will also be given an opportunity to use it as a legal tender, and UPI will allow them to come in Sri Lanka and just use like they use in India. The second one, of course, the ferry. We have identified 2 points in Sri Lanka and 2 points in India, so that it takes shape and form in foreseeable future, and very soon, I think. And thirdly, His Excellency Prime Minister Narendra Modi very clearly stated that he would like to see more cruise tourism take place and connecting Sri Lankan and Indian ports in various regions. So these are the forms and shapes we are looking at connecting people. So we hope these will again help to really tap the real potential of tourism.
If the Tamil issue plagued the India-Sri Lanka relationship in the past, China's strategic footprint looms over the region now. But New Delhi has framed a clear policy of neighborhood first under its Sagar framework for neighbors in the Indian Ocean region. India became the first country to assure the IMF about Lanka's debt restructuring and even co-chaired a creditors' meet to negotiate the details of the debt treatment. This in sharp contrast to China's complicity in the island nation's economic crisis through unsustainable lending and infrastructure projects.
as far as foreign policy goes, I think we need to have an India first policy. I mean, it's because India is always going to be close to us geographically. And also we share cultural and historical ties. India has a lot in stake when it comes to Sri Lanka, and India cannot afford to lose influence in Sri Lanka. I think China understands this. So China would mostly be looking into economical ties. But I think with India, we have even the Sri Lankan government will focus more on political and economic ties.
As Lanka heads to polls in 2024, New Delhi will be closely watching Lanka's internal economic and political developments and relations with its two biggest lenders, China and India.
As Pakistan heads for national elections, talk is rife of the country's finance minister, Ishaq Dar, slated to become the caretaker prime minister. A 2017 law in Pakistan suggests that a non-biased and non-partisan official be appointed during the transition period. But Dar's appointment is a marked departure. Here's an explainer as to why.
Pakistan's ruling party, the PMLN, mulls appointment of present Finance Minister Ishaq Dar as Caretaker PM. The upcoming setup under Dar is to get powers beyond the mandated curbed powers allotted to a caretaker setup. This will be made possible with the government amending the existing Election Act of 2017. Under the 2017 Election Act, a new caretaker government is sworn in to ensure impartiality to every person and political party. This is different from allowing the current regime to continue as caretaker. This government assists the Election Commission to hold fair and unbiased polls. However, it must restrict itself to activities that are routine, non-controversial and urgent to run the government. It cannot take major policy decisions or enter into big international negotiations. Changes to this act would enhance the powers of the caretaker government to transact all important matters of national significance, and this would go much beyond day-to-day functions. Under an amended law, the caretaker government will be given full powers to act like an elected government. The fact remains, the move will compromise on having a non-partisan caretaker government to ensure free and fair elections, as was the original plan. Putting Ishaq Dar in the top job essentially means undoing the fairness idea of the Election Act. The government's allies like the PPP and Jamiat Ulema-e-Islam Fazl are miffed that unbridled powers equal to that of an elected government are being given to an unelected administration.
Ishaq Dar is the hot favourite of the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, the PMLN, but will the People's Party agree to it? Will other coalition parties and partners agree to it? That's a million-dollar question. With that, there are other names as well that are in circulation. For instance, Kamran Tesori, the governor of Sindh, Miftah Ismail, the former finance minister, Shamshad Akhtar, the former State Bank governor, Raza Bakir, the former State Bank governor. So plenty of names there. A decision on that we would be expecting nearer to the time of the dissolution of the assembly.
Thousands of beauty parlors in Afghanistan shut shop this week, a month after they were put on notice by the Taliban's so-called Ministry of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice. As a result of this, thousands of women have now lost their livelihoods, which is now seen as yet another attack on the rights and freedom of women living in Afghanistan as the Taliban now works towards conforming what it calls Sharia law. Here's the story.
Posters pulled down. Shelves emptied out. Boxes packed and sealed. The sun sets on Afghanistan's beauty industry. Women's salons have been locked up for good. For the owners, many of whom choose not to be named for fear of Taliban reprisal, it's the end of often critical family incomes, the end of financial freedom, and of a social meeting point, perhaps the last place women could call their own.
I'm experiencing one of the worst and darkest days of my life. Total, absolute disappointment. We started our work with lots of passion and enthusiasm, but unfortunately, everything is over now.
Some 12,000 salons have downed shutters basis the Taliban order, which means nearly 60,000 women have lost their jobs. Women in the workforce in Afghanistan dips to an abysmal 23% now. The beauty clinic was about more than beauty treatment. It was also a safe female-only space where they could meet without a male chaperone. No more though. Under the Taliban, it's the end of the road for women's freedom.
My friends and I and all the women working in beauty salons are concerned about what to do and where to go next. I don't think there would be any place for us in Kabul since we have no other source of income. We had planned to continue our business at home, but unfortunately Taliban wouldn't allow that either. So we don't have any plan for the future.
Work, bread, justice. Don't snatch my bread and water, they chanted. About 50 women staged a rare protest in Kabul on the 19th of July. Water cannons were fired, tear gas shells were set off. Dissent is fiercely crushed in Afghanistan. Justice stays muzzled.
We are suffering in Afghanistan. Afghan girls will be imprisoned. All of us are the only breadwinners. I don't know why they are doing this. We are always worried about what to do, what our family will eat, and where we can go.
It's virtually a crime to be a woman in Afghanistan these last 2 years. Barred from schools and universities, banned from parks and fairs and gyms, ordered to cover up completely in public. And now this. Because for the Taliban, this regressive interpretation of Islamic law is here to stay.
If the situation continues like this, women in Afghanistan would have no future. They would be forced to marry at the age of 13 or 14. Power would be cut off, people would live with sheep and cows, and we would U-turn not to 20 years back, but to 60 to 70 years back.
Yes, Afghanistan has seen better days, perhaps all the way into the mid-1970s when Kabul was tagged the Paris of Central Asia. It's all gloom and doom for now though. Can the night get any darker?
The list of the world's most powerful passports for 2023 is finally out. Japan has been toppled over by Singapore to clinch the top spot as the world's most powerful passport with the largest number of visa-free entries. But where do the South Asian countries stand in this list? Take a look.
Get set, go. The summers are in full swing and travelers are thronging to every possible tourist destination around the world. But have you checked your passport index? Where can you travel with ease? Or to sum it up better, what are the countries that allow visa-free travel? The latest Passport Power Index released by Henley and Partners spell it out. Based on exclusive data from the International Air Transport Association or IATA, the survey essentially ranks passports based on the number of destinations a passport holder can access without a prior visa. Passports of 199 countries and 227 travel destinations were taken into account. Topping the list was Singapore. The city-state registered an impressive visa-free score of 192, which simply means the country's citizens can travel to 192 destinations in the world without the need to get a visa beforehand. So, where do South Asian nations stand? Let's take a look. The top performer in the Indian subcontinent is the Maldives. At number 57 globally, the island nation continues to be the brightest spot in the South Asian region on the Passport Index. Its citizens enjoy either visa on demand or visa-free access to 91 countries. Next up is India at number 80, up from 87th in 2022. Indian citizens can go to 57 countries without the need to get a visa beforehand. At number 3 on the South Asian list and number 84 on the world's list is the Himalayan Kingdom of Bhutan. The citizens of the landlocked country can travel without a visa to 53 countries. Sri Lanka, which is looking to pull itself out of the 2022 economic crisis, has been ranked at number 4 in South Asia and at 95th spot worldwide. Sri Lankans can travel to 41 countries without a visa or get a visa on arrival. Just 1 point behind Sri Lanka is Bangladesh at 96th. Bangladeshis can travel to 40 countries without a prior visa. Nepal, which thrives on tourism, ranks 98th overall and is among the bottom 3 on the list of South Asian countries with visa-free access to only 38 countries. Not surprisingly perhaps, Pakistan and Afghanistan are at the bottom of the list in South Asia. Pakistan is placed in 100th position with a score of 33. It is now a nation with the world's 4th worst passport. Afghanistan is placed last of all at 103rd. Its citizens have a visa-free score of 27 nations. Even Syria and Iraq rank above Afghanistan on the Passport Index. Though Asian countries have dominated rankings in the index, Nepal, Pakistan and Afghanistan, all South Asian nations, continue to lag behind. Who stands where? Who's the most welcome? Who faces the most checks?
Up next, we bring you all the stories that are making headlines in South Asia.
At least 201 people have died as Bangladesh grapples with the dengue outbreak. On the 23rd of July, the country recorded the highest number of dengue-related hospitalizations in a single day. According to official figures, more than 37,000 people have become infected with the virus so far. The mosquito-borne disease is spreading rapidly and could result in a record number of deaths and infections for the second consecutive year. Last year, the virus claimed 281 lives, a record high since the authorities started keeping a tally in 2000, and over 62,000 people were infected. Dengue is common in South Asia during the June to September monsoon season as the mosquito variant which spreads the disease thrives in stagnant water.
Afghanistan has been experiencing severe flooding resulting from heavy seasonal rainfall. At least 31 have been killed. 41 have been reported missing so far. Authorities said more than 8 provinces were swept by recent flash floods. The local Taliban authorities are also urging international aid agencies to accelerate humanitarian assistance. The impact of climate change and natural disasters has caused a nightmarish situation in Afghanistan, one of the world's most vulnerable countries where a majority of the population is already facing food insecurity or starvation.
Maldives Election Commission is in turmoil ahead of the polls. The Maldives Election Commission has sacked its chief, Fawad Tawfiq, just 1 month before the presidential polls. Tawfiq, who was serving as the president of the 5-member election commission, was removed following a majority no-trust resolution. The country's president, Ibrahim Mohammed Soli, is seeking a re-election in the September 9 polls. And now, with the latest turmoil, the opposition parties have expressed concern over the commission's ability to conduct free and fair polls.
And that's all we have for you on our show this week. Before we leave, we will show you the visuals of the main venue that is all set to host the G20 summit in New Delhi as it is preparing to welcome delegates and world leaders in September. Take a look, and I will see you next week.